Hi, everybody. Welcome to Consistently Creative Crew. I'm Colleen along with Kari and Cheryl. And tonight I'll be leading you through the project recipe for School Dayz. And you required one piece of cardstock. So I'll be doing blue. 2 pieces of designer paper or album pages for your base. And then 2 different designer papers which both sides will show. So you need to like both sides of your paper. I happen to be using the collection Patriotic, Perfectly Patriotic, because that's what went with my photos that I'm going to use tonight. Kari is going to show you the collection and the samples that they use for School Dayz and the other papers that you can use.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so here is the sample layout that Creative Memories provided, and you can see here that, as Colleen said, there's cardstock that's here. There's also some paper. So let me flip over to the advisor guide. So this is what they recommend: 1 sheet of canary cardstock, 4 sheets of School Dayz designer paper, and you can see these 2 are the same, and that's what they selected for their base. And then there's 2 additional ones, as Colleen shared. You can see both sides. And these, from this image, they look like they're fairly colorful, but you're not using so much of them that it is really distracting on the layout. And here are the other pairings. So they selected this one that had the greens as the base, this other one that looks like notebook paper as the other base, and then this other one that has another, looks like light green, light bluish color. So those were the suggested pairings for that. So their completed kit and their sample tools where they had the trimmer, tape runner, repo tape, and the bookshelf border punch, as well as additional embellishments and things that you can use. So hopefully that gives you some ideas. And as Colleen shared, she is going to be doing it with a different kit so we can see how that looks.
Thanks for reviewing the tools, because the tools are very simplified this evening. The bookshelf border punch is it stays attached. It's an edge punch. So when you punch it out, this happens to be a different one, but it stays attached to the piece of paper. And that's in the design. The first thing we're going to do is cut the cardstock. And the cardstock is yellow in the sample. And then we're going to put it in this and punch it. So this entire yellow section is all one piece of cardstock. Now, of course, there are a different type of border punch. It's called a chain. And see, this banner one, you cut it and it falls away from the paper. I'm going to go rogue tonight and I'm going to do a chain one. So it'll just be slightly different. And I'm also going to adapt the layout because I have too many photos, as is always my problem. And I don't want to cut my photos to 5.5 because I want to use peekaboo pockets. So it's these 2 papers on the 3rd paper that we cut that are those for 5.5. So I'm just going to rotate them and cut them larger. But I will give all the instructions following the project recipe and then say, okay, now don't do what I'm going to do. This is how I've adapted it for my photos. But it's straightforward, and I think it's a fun layout to do to punch the border paper and then layer on top of it. It's a little bit something that I don't typically do. So we want to start with our cardstock, which they call paper number 1, and your trimmer. And the first cut is 3 3/4 by 12. 3 3/4 by 12. We're going to do that twice. Okay. And then we need to make some smaller cuts. Rotate our paper. And this should be 4.5. That's what you have left. 4.5. Rotate it, cut it 3.5. And then 3.5 again. And now we're gonna, this should be 5 inches. And it is. We're gonna rotate it and cut it at 2.25. And those are our cardstock pieces. So that again was 2 pieces at 3.75 by 12. 2 pieces at 4.5 by 3.5. And then 2 pieces that are 2.25 by 5. And to continue cutting, we're just going to keep going with our cutting. Now this will go across the bottom of your page. What we're about to cut is here is G. It's going to layer on top of the cardstock. So if you have any directionals, you need to make sure you're turn it the appropriate way. So this is directional paper that I want to show. So I'm going to turn mine sideways. I'm going to cut it 2 inches twice. All right, and then we need to have a 6.5 inch cut. This strip on the right is scrap. And then we rotate the paper and we're going to cut it 4.5. And then cut it 4.5 again.
Doesn't work either. Just do your best. If it'll turn on.
And then this piece that's left is also scrap. Set that aside. And your third piece of paper, these are going to be strips that go across the top up here. So we're going to turn. So you need to take into account direction. Since mine are striped, I'm going to turn it sideways. And we cut it 1.5 twice. Don't stick anymore. Cut it 1.5 twice. Love how vibrant this paper is. We were in a national park for the 4th of July and we really didn't do anything. So I'm like, well, this is great. I have Memorial Day pictures. That'll work perfectly. So that was 2 cuts at 1.5. Then the next cut is 4.5 by 6. So you're going to take it to 4.5 and cut down all the way down. And then you're going to rotate it and cut at 6. Don't follow me now because I'm modifying the instructions to fit my photos. I'm going to do something different, but I just gave you the instructions. It's cut it at 4.5, take it all the way down, rotate it, and cut at 6. And then you'll have, and the remainder is scrap. So in case you want to keep your photos full size, you can cut it 6.5. and rotate and cut it 4.5 twice. Again, this is an adaptation to the layout, not following the exact instructions. And then the remainder is scrap. Okay, we've made all of our cuts. So maybe we should take a pause to see if people need to get caught up. Okay, so we've done all of our cutting, and the very first thing out of our cardstock was 3 3/4 by 12, and then your 2 punch. And the sample shows using an edge punch, so the design stays attached to the piece of paper. And that's what you should do now, is take your border punch, line it up with the lines on the front or the side based on whatever your sample is. You can see the line. You can line it up to the left or to the right, whichever way you like, and punch all the way. And do one side of both pieces. I am going rogue on this evening. I'm not going to follow that instruction because I have this great flag banner that happens to be a chain style and I want to use it. So I'm going to just use a different color. So I apologize that I'm going rogue, but everybody just line up your border punch. Yep. And it doesn't want to open again. Oh. The crash was dropping it on the floor. That's always what works. Gonna line it back up again. So I'm sure you may have already experienced this before, but sometimes they just get stuck. Interesting. I guess it doesn't like my paper. Okay. I guess I won't be doing that. Don't want to hold you guys up. Using my edge border, punching out my 2 pieces. This edge border has a little triangle here that you can line up your design on. Trying to see if you could see it in the camera. So that helps. And remember to keep it tight against the top. Okay, on to my second one. Okay. Border's punched. Now it's on to assembly. Base papers. Your punched border all the way across the bottom, directly on the bottom. And then these mats, 4x3 mats, go on the center. And then these little strips get layered. Then your 2-inch strips go across the bottom, layered on top of your border. And the other strips and the other 2 pieces from that paper are the large 4x6, 4.5 by 6.5 mats on the side. And the other strip, the last piece of paper, the 1.5 inch, goes across. I might keep this up. Goes across the top. Goes all the way across the top. Still deciding which side I like. 1.5 inch strip all the way across the top.
That's pretty.
And then you use that there. And then the last four by sixes go here. Gives you the general idea of the layout. Again, the piece that you punched goes all the way down to the bottom.
That looks great.
Yeah, it looks really good.
That's the layout.
Even
So
before you put photos on, it looks awesome.
thanks. We'll take a pause. Okay, so I was punching my shimmer cardstock with the banner and it was getting stuck. So what I did is I just used a piece of regular copy paper, not just regular Xerox paper, and I repoed it behind it, and now it's punching with no problem. So the shimmer cardstock sometimes can be so light that it just gets stuck in there. So if you run into the same concern, here's this little tip. So I just put regular paper behind it, and now with repo, and now I can just peel it right off. And there's my punched border.
Yeah.
That is a great tip, Colleen.
Great tip.
I
Thank
know,
you.
but I'm just saying, yeah.
Okay, so while I put my page together, I made quite a few adjustments off the original project recipe, as you can see. The original project recipe called for 2 landscape, 2 portrait, and 2 smaller photos in landscape. And I have different. So I was going to use a peekaboo pocket, just what, but I just decided to spread all my photos out. I ended up just taking, going old school little triangles on these bottom photos. But I like how it shows everything. I angled my boxes on the side.
It's about time, yes.
I'm going to do my journaling, and I'm going to end up putting cutting something out, title up there on the top. But, you know, this is just a suggestion. The recipes are just a suggestion of how you should put it together, and then you should do what works for you. Again, this was made using the Perfectly Patriotic collection. So does anyone else have a layout they would like to share?
Lynn, you're on
I
mute.
can share mine.
Go ahead.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Oh, look at that.
I remember
Yeah.
that paper.
So
Yeah, that's pretty much the primary elementary school paper from Creative
That's
Memory.
great.
Way back.
Yeah, it goes way back and it looks a little cluttered. I don't know if I'll keep it this way, but I did use the exact layout or pretty much the exact layout that
Nice.
they have. And well, and instead of the rulers across the bottom, I added just some embellishments there and some writing. And I use the old school paper for the background
Oh, nice.
Nice.
and notebook paper, spiral notebook paper for down here.
I love
This
that.
is,
I think it
This
came
is-
out great. I wouldn't change a thing.
I wouldn't change
This-
just about
this is
anything
a
either.
school that my father-in-law went to when he was a kid. It was a one-room schoolhouse. And it was in Norwalk, Ohio, which is kind of central Ohio. Central north central. And I did a page just the other day of the outside, which if it comes back, it shows the front of the school
Oh, cute.
and the outside of the school. So this is supposed to be a complimentary page, but it
Nice.
looks so very different that I don't know if it's going to work. But anyway, that's what I ended up with.
Nice. Looks
I
good.
like it.
I love how you use the old CM digital primary palette again and pulled it out, and it works really well with this.
And I
Project
used
recipe.
an apple shape for the
Yeah.
cut
I see.
edge.
Great.
That's really nice.
You.
That's awesome. Thanks.
Yep.
All right. And I will share mine. I also did it digitally tonight. So I changed up a number of things, but I took the smaller pictures that were in the top towards the center and I actually centered them over the other pictures. And instead of having that narrow strip just kind of behind part of the other strip here at the top, I went all the way across to the center. So it goes across both pages. So really fun layout, different to do. And I really appreciate you teaching it tonight, Colleen. So thank you so much.
Good job, everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that, Colleen. Very nice.
I'm
And
glad that my flag banner didn't work out because
It looks good.
It
That's
does.
anyway.
And I never would have known if you hadn't have said something that you only use corners on those two, really, because at first glance, I don't even notice that.
Yeah.
So
Okay, good.
looks great. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for watching and for teaching tonight. And if you watch this on YouTube, we'd love to see a comment from you. So drop that in the comments.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Thanks, Colleen.
you.